Morning. Welcome to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, thanking you once again for joining us today. It's December 4. It's Wednesday, if I am not mistaken. Yes, Wednesday, December, January 4. Ito na, hindi talaga ako makamove on sa Pasko. It's January 4, 2023. Welcome to the program. I hope you're having a good laugh at my expense. And thank you for being subscribers of Cignal TV, viewers of One News on channels 8 and 250. And of course, thank you for those of you who watch us on Facebook, on YouTube, especially those of you who are in the Highland areas who watch us via Cignal. Good morning to Sir Ben and Sol Long-Id of Sagada, and of course to our viewers down in Zamboanga, Mr. Tur Atilano and Cody. Thank you for joining us today. Now, let's get on with the day with the daily starter from the book of Psalms, chapter 32, verse 8. I will instruct you and teach you in the way which you shall go. I will counsel you with my eye on you. While this may be biblical in nature, it is something worthwhile to remember, and it is something that we who are parents should apply to our children. It is something we who are managers, leaders, officials should apply to our staff, to our employees, etc., in our community. Because it is not enough that you order people. It is not enough that you tell people what to do. You should instruct. And when the word instruct is used, it is to teach. Teach them how to do things, when to do things, the right amount, etc. And particularly with your children and your close assistants, with your eye on them. Bantayan nyo. People have adopted the Western way. Oh, when they're 18, they're out of the house. And that is why half of them end up in jail, get pregnant, leave home, does not respect family values because they have not been instructed. We have not watched over them and kept our eye on them. So I do hope that in this new year, 2023, you will all pay particular attention to the book of Psalm chapter 32, verse 8. I will instruct you and teach you in the way which you shall go. I will counsel you with my eye on you. Okay, now let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star this January 4, 2023, this Wednesday, and the headline goes, NAIA flight delays continue. As already announced and repeated several times in the past few days, the flight delays will continue, but things are beginning to normalize at the Manila International Airport, and it is projected that by Thursday this week, everything will be a-okay. So, konti na lang pong pasensya, konting tiyaga. At the top of the front page, floods hit Lanao del Norte barangays. That photo there you see is an image posted by the Tubod local government showing a rescue team arriving at a flooded area of Barangay Pigkarangan in Tubod, Lanao del Norte. Okay, please do not be surprised. This is already an annual occurrence in that part of the country. During December, January, they really get a lot of rains in different provinces in the south, down south, and let us pray that lives are saved and people are able to evacuate. And congratulations to the government for doing the best they can on the matter. Now, BOC or Bureau of Customs seizes yellow onions worth 17 million. Ayan po, okay? This is a hot topic right now, especially since onions are no longer considered cheap vegetable products, but are now considered jewelry in terms of their value and their price. A recent examination by the Bureau of Customs of 3 containers declared as various clothing and home products from China yielded 17 million worth of smuggled yellow onions concealed in sacks of purported ukay-ukay with an estimated market value of 2 million. Okay, pero meron pa raw iba. May mga nahuli pang iba. Kanya naging 17 million. Okay, now the question is, Mr. Commissioner of the Bureau of Customs, may nahuli ba? Okay, sorry, I don't want to editorialize the front page of the Philippine Star, but it has reached a point where we keep reading about this and yet no one is presented to have been arrested. Okay, so sabi, may shortage, pero there is onion in the market, except you have to pay government price of 250, market price of 350. Okay, at the center of the front page, we have that nice photo of President Bongbong Marcos and First Lady Lisa Araneta Marcos waving to well-wishers before leaving for China. I call it a nice photo because it is a more relaxed photo. Hindi naka-Americana, hindi naka-trench coat. We do hope that all goes well. BBM off to China, and his departure statement was summed up with the words, "Wish me luck," because the president will be meeting with Chinese Premier or President Xi Jinping to discuss our problems in the West Philippine Sea. Okay. Meanwhile, DOTR proceeds with privatization of airports. The Department of Transportation, or DOTR, will push through with its plan to privatize a number of regional airports this year, kicking off with one considered the gateway to northern Mindanao, which has received renewed interest from previous proponents. That is a statement issued by Transportation Secretary Jimmy Bautista. In fact, parang nauna na nga yung Cebu, Mactan Airport, pinag-uusapan or na-close na. Anyway, na-close na yung privatization of that. Anyway, claim areas to be set up for e-Philippine ID, the national ID. The Philippine Statistics Authority, PSA, will be setting up designated claiming areas in barangays and doing house-to-house deliveries to ensure that the digital version of the national ID is received by registered individuals. Okay, so ayan po, abangan po ninyo yan. It will happen in a designated area in your barangay. Okay. Meanwhile, the Walk of Faith, okay? Walk of Faith will replace Traslación in Nazarene Feast, okay? Instead of the usual million people processions that accompany the traditional Traslación, there will now be a walk of faith. The Black Nazarene will not be part of the procession. People will be encouraged to just follow a route, say their prayers, and then go to the church. But otherwise, it is not going to be like before. Okay, last but not the least, Dali De Leon, actress, vice for Golden Globe, and says it's like a dream. Okay, na-interview na po siya maraming beses sa Cignal TV, both by Agenda and the Chiefs, and we are wishing her well. We encourage our viewers, please pray that Dali De Leon wins the Golden Globe Award for, I think, supporting actress, if I am not mistaken. Pero mabigat po ang kalaban. Maraming big time na artista, but she did very well. And we do hope that she wins it. Okay, so I believe that's all we have as far as the front page of the Philippine Star today, January 4, 2023, Wednesday, is concerned. Okay, now you might be wondering, what is our topic for today? As some of you might know, recall, or have heard, I recently went on a road trip all the way from Lipa, Batangas to Manila to La Union to Sagada to Baguio and back to Pasig. And actually, nagano pa nga ako, naglipa pa ako kahapon. But during this road trip, I spoke to some people, and one housewife, particularly a retired housewife, lamented and said, the price of electricity is so high. It is almost unaffordable, and many people have really cut back on their electric consumption. And that is a problem. And then just the other day, while having lunch with some friends, I kind of said, I'm seriously considering removing the generator, the small genset we have here in the house in Pasig, because it just occupies space and I never really ever used it for many years. And my friend said, no, don't do that, because next year, which is this year, 2023, we are supposed to have power shortages. Okay, so wag ko raw alisin yung aking genset. So we thought we would bring in an independent person who has gone through it all, very smart, very intelligent, and is still involved in the industry of power generation, but of a different sort. So let's introduce our guest for today. You've seen him once on the program. I had a very animated conversation with him, but today it might turn serious because ayaw nating makuryente. Okay, let's introduce our guest. Gabriel, please.
Vicente Perez is the co-founder and current chairman of Alternergy, a pioneering renewable energy firm. In 2001, Perez was named Philippine Energy Secretary, serving until 2005. He also served briefly as an undersecretary for the Trade and Industry Department.
Okay, good morning and welcome to the program, Sec Vince. Thank you for joining us and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Cito. Excuse me, I am on holiday, but I'm always ready to speak about energy matters with you.
Yes, and I believe you are one of the better resource persons that I can speak and the viewers can listen to. You may have heard my introduction, and rather than talk about economic issues related to power, etc., I presented to the viewers the lamentation of an ordinary Filipina. She appealed to me to please tackle the subject matter on the show because they can barely make ends meet regarding the cost of electricity. What is behind all of this? Why is electricity so expensive in the Philippines compared to our ASEAN neighbors?
Thank you, Cito. It's a sentiment that your lady that you met is shared by everyone else. I have had comments from governors and mayors of provinces that their constituents are also complaining of the very high cost of electricity today. So let's break it down and we can look at what's happening. We could always complain that the cost of electricity is caused by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. That is often the common reason. Yes, that is true. Because of the invasion of Russia of Ukraine, the gas supply that Russia used to pass through Ukraine to Europe is now obviously compromised. And for political reasons, the European countries would like to buy less of gas from Russia, which is creating demand for for gas supply being very tight. When gas supply is shortened, then other power plants are buying coal instead to replace the supply of gas that used to come from Russia.
Mhm.
So coal prices have gone up. Okay. That's things happening outside the Philippines, Cito.
Okay.
Now, why does that affect us? Well, over the last decade, I will not mince words, we have shifted our fuel supply when we used to be only about 1/3 to 40% of our supply of power comes from coal. It is now close to between 57 to 60%. We have built more coal plants in the last 20 years, and therefore we need more coal fuel. But the Philippines is not a coal exporter. We buy a lot of our coal from abroad, Indonesia, Australia, a bit of China, and even from Africa. Therefore, our electricity prices has been affected by the price of coal, which was affected by the shortage of gas supply from Russia, which was affected by the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Mhm.
So one can say, ay, hindi natin kasalanan yan. Kasalanan ng mga Russians. But part of the problem we have is we have become overly dependent on imported coal, and the price of coal, for everyone listening, has gone up from $100 a ton to almost $400 a ton in the middle of last year, and maybe come down to $350 a ton today. But that's still a multiple of 3.5 times. Okay?
Mhm.
But I'm going to add another layer, Cito.
Yeah.
There are certain power supply agreements that are based on coal, okay, who have decided that they will pass on the price of the coal fuel to the consumer.
Mhm.
They have agreed that they will pass on any increase or decrease in coal prices to the consumer. And that's what's happening now. The coal prices, electricity from coal power plants has become very expensive, and it's passed on to the consumer. And unfortunately, a lot of the electric co-ops have relied on coal fuel supply. Okay, let me stop there. That was a lot to digest. We could break that into other solutions and issues, but right now, that is what is the cost of electricity today.
That is the
Yeah.
immediate cause, Sec Vince. But many people will say, pero Sec Vince, that problem has been here ever since, even before coal and bunker fuel and all sorts of fuel. Electricity in the Philippines has always been higher than neighbors. Is it because our country or government, and not any particular administration, does not really have a proper plan and proper set of experts to run this? Because I keep hearing other columnists saying that, during the time of Jerry Velasco, Geronimo Velasco, they had a working plan for alternative energy, multiple resources, etc. And then you're pointing out that somebody threw all of that out the window and implemented a pro-coal program. Is it because we don't have a proper program after Geronimo Velasco, or is it something else?
Okay, Cito, let's take away muna the government. Let's put it aside. Let's talk about the Philippines as a country of 7,000 islands,
Okay.
isolated from the rest of the world because we are separated by the seas of the West Philippine Sea and the Pacific Ocean. So why is that relevant when it comes to talking about energy? A country like Thailand, which is very industrialized, which relies a lot on power,
Mhm.
can buy cheap, large hydropower projects, neighbors like Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia.
Mhm.
They could easily interconnect because they're connected by land. We do not have that luxury.
Okay.
Okay. Second, a country like Malaysia, no. Many, even a few decades ago, an archipelago like Indonesia, separated like the Philippines,
Mhm.
had very low power prices. Why? They had a lot of their own natural oil resources. We do not have that. Okay, so one is archipelago tayo.
Mhm.
So not even an archipelago. We could be an island like Sri Lanka or Australia. But the fact that we have to bring in power, we cannot buy electricity unless there's a submarine cable that's thousands of kilometers long. Wala yan. So we have to bring in power or fuel from abroad.
Okay.
But Indonesia is an archipelago. Why not? Well, maswerte sila. They had a lot of oil reserves. They were exporting oil, even natural gas. We didn't have that benefit. Okay. Now, there's a third aspect to our geography, Cito. Unlike an island like Sri Lanka or Japan, or Australia,
Mhm.
we are 7,000 islands. Now, why is that relevant? We cannot build a very large power plant because the islands limit the size of the power plant. I know it seems unreal, unusual, pero if we have multiple plants and one plant is mega, ang laki, because the bigger the plant, the cheaper the electricity. Yung economics of scale, di ba, that we talk about.
Mhm.
But if we have a large power plant and the rest are small, pag for some reason bumitaw yung power plant, nagkaroon ng jellyfish incident or naputol yung transmission line,
Mhm.
the entire grid will fall. Will have a grid-wide blackout. The
Which has
analogy
happened.
is you have,
Which has happened in the past.
which has
and,
happened during my time.
Yeah, it happened during your time, and something similar happened last weekend. Two
Correct.
batteries collapse or fail, and the entire country goes blackout nautically.
Correct.
Aeronautically.
In terms of, radar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the analogy is para bang you have 6 children holding hands in a circle. But one of them is a big heavyweight child. They're going around in a circle, the 6 children, but the 5 are tiny, but the 6th is big. And if he accidentally trips and falls, the other 5 will fall also. Okay?
Okay.
So for that reason, we do not have a power plant larger than about 600 to 700 megawatts. That's the largest power plant in the country. It's located right now in Bataan. Before that, it was Suwal in Pangasinan.
Yeah.
For that reason, they do not build larger than that so that when one if one plant happens to go offline, whether maintenance or nag-trip or there was an interruption, the rest of the grid does not collapse. That is the reason. And because of that, maliliit yung planta natin compared to a 2,000 megawatt plant in Korea or in Vietnam. We are only limited. So the cost of electricity is higher because our plants are smaller. Okay, that's geography. That's isolated archipelago. That is the case. Okay. Now let's talk about policy. Gobyerno na.
Wait a minute. Before you
Okay.
go to policy, I just want to interject because everybody keeps talking about nuclear plants. I've been talking about it because I always assume, hey, it's efficient, it's clean, it solves the problems for many countries. But now you are essentially saying you can only build so many nuclear power plants in certain areas, but it's not going to be useful nationwide, correct?
No. Let's answer your question. You could have multiple nuclear plants. By the way, I'm not in favor of nuclear plants, but putting that aside, let's talking about policy. If you have you could have multiple nuclear plants. They just cannot be mega large.
Okay.
That's why most of the discussion by policy in terms of nuclear is what they call small modular reactors, SMR, small modular reactors that you could bring in. It could be on a barge. And what makes nuclear appealing to certain people is the fact that once it's built, the fuel is there, the fuel rods are there, and you could literally have a baseload power supply that can run for 25 years or so. Okay? Let's not get caught up with the issue of waste and safety and permitting. That's another issue for nuclear that they have to deal with. But in countries like Korea, Japan, Vietnam, China, they have nuclear. What is the common? Even Taiwan. Taiwan is an isolated country, like I was telling you. So they have to have produced their own electricity. The last thing they can buy electricity from is from China, even though they could probably have a submarine cable. Politically, it will not happen. So Taiwan has nuclear reactors. These nuclear reactors in Japan, Korea, Taiwan, China, and Vietnam were built under, regimes that were somewhat authoritarian.
With very strong political will.
Ang China and Vietnam. Korea and Japan at one point, Korea particularly, if you recall, had military strongmen who were running it. In other words, permitting was not an issue. Permitting. Yung backyard issue, yung not in my backyard. They were able to build these nuclear plants. We have to have that issue with nuclear. But we're getting lost right now. We're getting lost in the nuclear issue.
Okay.
Back to power.
You were about to talk about policy affecting the cost of power.
Policy. Okay. Could a coal supply be given on a fixed price? That's the question. Why does it have to be passed on to the consumer? Yun ang tanong dapat eh. Believe it or not, there are certain contracts that have that clause. They may be losing money now. And actually, that's the issue of the San Miguel contract. They offered a contract fixed price to Meralco. But they thought the coal price would remain stable over the 20 years of what they or the 10 years that they expected the contract to last. And nagkaroon ng Ukraine war. Could San Miguel have absorbed the loss? Theoretically, under the contract, they should have. But but they appealed that they could not survive, and ibang issue na yan.
Yeah, but from what I understand, and of course this is another subject matter, they also have a CIC or change in condition clause. Much like many of the contracts, even during your time, wasn't it that companies have a guaranteed profit in power generation? Parang the state guarantees that the power generators must earn at least X% income?
What you're alluding to is what you call the force majeure, that there was an extraordinary event. That, yes, pwede yun. Those are clauses that are common. COVID was an extraordinary event.
Yeah.
An earthquake or a coup attempt could be an extraordinary event. So San Miguel felt that the Ukraine war was an extraordinary event. Yeah.
But okay, wait a minute. I'm sorry. We have to go for a quick break. Sec Vince, I just got a cue from my EP for a commercial. But when we come back, I'd really like to talk about what solutions you can come up with, because you are heading alternative energy or Alternergy, and it's getting really frustrating. We all know the circumstance that we live in, the restrictions and limitations, but people are already beginning to ask, do the citizens really have to cut back, live less, enjoy life less, or are there solutions that you could come up with? We'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program Agenda. Still with us, Secretary Vince Perez, former Energy Secretary, Department of Energy. Sec Vince, before we get into your Alternergy or alternative energy and your suggested solutions, could you just give us a response? Secretary Lutilla said that the country's power supply situation next year is likely to be difficult. Do you share the sentiment that we are in for patches of power outages and that I should not get rid of my old generator?
I'm very glad that Secretary Lutilla is being upfront with everyone. We're going to have a bit of a tight situation, particularly next month in February. The Malampaya platform, the gas project, has regular schedules of maintenance. And there will be a schedule sometime in the middle of February where the gas pipeline will be shut down. This is regular, regular maintenance.
Mhm.
But during that time, we need to make sure that there is enough alternative liquid fuel for the other power plants to run. There's about 2,000 megawatts of power that will be that Malampaya is currently supplying. So we need to make sure that those plants have condensate or liquid gas that they could buy from elsewhere to during the maintenance period. So tight in February.
Okay.
Okay.
It's one thing to be transparent. It's another thing to be prepared. Are you convinced or have you seen or heard of a plan of government to prepare for these problems for this year?
Correct. So I've seen reports from the DOE that they want to make sure that the other power plants in Luzon, kasi Malampaya affects Luzon, no, will not schedule also maintenance or they are in good running condition during that same period in February. In other words, wag sabayan yung maintenance shutdown ng Malampaya. Dapat the other power plants should be ready, should be enough coal supply in their coal yard, etc., etc. Second, Malampaya, that's the short-term problem lang yan eh. We know this is just a one or 2 week maintenance shutdown. But I think in our previous conversation, we know that the Malampaya gas field will soon run out by 2024, 25. Why is it depending on why is that a definite time? Because it's how fast or how slow we consume the gas, no? Parang balloon yan that you either let it release quickly or release it gently. Kaya they say 24, 25. So what is important this year, 2023, we should have new liquid natural gas, LNG power plants coming on stream. There are 2 plants on schedule in Batangas. I hope that the DOE will ensure that those plants come on stream by this year. So napaka-importante yan. There are 2 privately funded projects, Lean Seed and First Gen. It's important they come on stream because we don't know how quick or how slow the Malampaya gas field will diminish.
Being a private sector proponent, what is the state of affairs or how easy or difficult is it to get these projects off the ground? Do you feel that the DOE and the related government agencies are open arms, accommodating, shepherding the investors, or is it, everyone for himself, kanya-kanyang lakad?
Cito, ideally, dapat ginawa na to ng previous administration. Why now? But that's the previous administration. I cannot blame everything on this current administration. But from all indications that I've been hearing, both private discussions and with the government, they are very focused on ensuring that at least 2 of these LNG plants will come on stream by the middle of this year.
Okay, is that the answer to our problems? Does it mean that it will bring electricity prices down, electricity supply higher, or is this just a remedial solution? And what do you suggest?
Cito, we have to separate supply and price, affordability. So right now we're dealing with energy supply or security that we have. The old saying goes, the most expensive electricity is no electricity. So this is ensuring supply to replace the Malampaya gas field, which has been running since 2001. But in terms of affordability, again, like coal, LNG prices are based on foreign markets. we import them. LNG prices, which is gas, has internationally traded prices. So whatever the cost of the LNG, depending on the power supply agreement, the gas supply agreement, it could be fixed or it could be floating. That is different issue. The issue is supply, ensuring we have enough supply to replace the Malampaya capacity that will slowly go off stream, offline.
You're a smart businessman. You're not going to put up an alternative energy company if you didn't think there's going to be a shortage or there is going to be a profitable situation. Now, are we in for, are you going to put in something new, something different? Because LNG, as you pointed out, it's a global, it's a product of global requirements. We're not competitive.
Again, we're not a producer of LNG. We're not like Australia or Indonesia.
Mhm.
We don't have anything to export. As a matter of fact, we had Malampaya for 20 years, but that was our own, but it's diminishing. So yes, power supply will be tight. That is the case. The DOE is being very honest with us.
Mhm.
And I would say that it will be tight for the next 2 years. And I know that you all know, your listeners all know I'm into renewables. And I feel that the one alternative to this is renewables, because renewables, once you build it, can offer a fixed price for 20, 25 years.
Yeah. Now, what is your situation in that area? How easy has it been for you to set up the projects, or are you like previous pioneers running into brick walls?
It's never easy doing business in the Philippines, Cito, you know that. So a lot of the projects we have is pipeline, meaning matagal na naming inumpisahan to. Some we've started in 2014, 2013. And luckily, there are some projects. A solar project will come on stream in May. Another one will come on stream in December. We have 2 run-of-river hydro projects that will come on stream in 2024. So we've been planning this for a long time. Some take many years. But we're planning to bring in supply for the next 5 years, Cito. Year after year, new capacity coming in. And the good thing is a lot of this will come in with fixed prices, much lower.
Okay, that's good to hear. But how much power will you generate, and how many % of the demand would that be? Because with the Malampaya drying out by 2025, 2026, you said that the 2 LNG plants that are coming up will be there just to make up for the loss in Malampaya, which still puts us back to where we were. We're still short, and it's still expensive.
Correct. So, those LNG will merely replace existing capacity, no? And we're growing, di ba? We're growing as an economy. We had a very high growth last year, and we'll still expect to grow this year. I think our output will not solve the entire energy supply, and multiple companies, Alternergy being one of them, is working hard to rush some of these projects online, as I said, by this year, 2023, 24, 25. The main lesson I learned as an energy secretary was diversification is the key to energy security. Let's not put all our eggs on coal plants. Let's not put all our eggs on LNG. Let's not put all our eggs even on hydro. As good as it be, we could have a drought year like Brazil had, and they had power shortage in Rio and Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
So diversification is the key. For some people, that includes nuclear power. That's their philosophy. For me, I would promote renewables. And what we do is we're not reliant on one kind of renewables, Cito. We have what you call a triple play strategy: solar, wind, and run-of-river hydro. So maski na umulan, may wind pa and and so hydro, or pag walang hangin, meron kaming hydro and solar. So triple play is our key to ensure that we have energy supply for the consumer.
But is anyone even paying attention to all of this? You, me, we've all been talking about renewables for the last 20 years. You've boldly gone into the business, but I honestly have to say, I have not heard one single government official, past and present, who could qualify as informed and proactively pushing for renewable energy. It seems that for the most part, it's lip service. What's your sentiment on this matter?
I would say that given what has happened, you remember this administration took office in July 1 or June 30 in the middle of the Ukraine invasion by Russia. So, and that's when coal prices went up, gasoline prices went up. So I believe, particularly in this BBM administration, that they realize that renewable is a key policy of the government. I believe that. Why? Because the former president, the president was the former governor of Ilocos Norte, and we built the very first wind farm. Me and my team built the very first wind farm in all of Southeast Asia and Baguio Bay. So he actually was quite helpful to our team in making sure that Baguio Bay wind farm. So he personally is aware, and I could see in his State of the Nation address, in his inaugural address, that renewable is something fundamental as a policy to him. And I'm glad Secretary Lutilla has also espoused and promoted that. Of course, he added nuclear policy as another branch. That will take some time. That's not going to solve our problem next year, this year, but at least it's something that they're working on. And the first few policy initiatives of Secretary Lutilla has been to promote renewables so far. So, but this takes time. In the meantime, I really feel for that lady who talked to you about napakamahal ng presyo ng kuryente. I really feel for that.
Hold that thought. We'll go for one quick last break, and then we'll go all out regarding this subject matter, because I think that's the part that many of our viewers are interested in. What is available for ordinary people like her, for consumers like me who want renewable but can't seem to find someone reliable and affordable? We'll go for a quick break. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Okay, welcome back to the program Agenda, and still with us, Secretary Vince Perez, former Department of Energy Secretary. Sec Vince, okay, so you were expressing how you feel for that lady who was just really lamenting that they couldn't afford the price of electricity, and it goes all over. And the idea that I may one day, as a retiree, have to live with one bulb and one fan in the province is frightening. But, I see you giggling, but unfortunately, I get around Sec Vince, and it is a heartbreaking realization that many retirees lights out by 8, they live with a fan. It's a one bulb setup, and they basically just have fresh food because they don't want to have a refrigerator, etc.
Thank you. Right now, energy conservation is the key. Everything you just described are all drastic measures to reduce our cost of electricity. So, one, you're right. Maybe don't use the refrigerator as often, but that's food. That's fundamental. Baka nasa freezer or nasa cooler muna ng yelo, but that's something temporarily. Second, huwag muna magplancha.
I won't let you go there, Sec Vince. I don't want to send you to hell because some people have made similar solutions and they're now being crucified on Facebook. Wag. Let's not go there.
Okay.
No? But let's talk about that question. Is there renewable options that consumers can afford, or are there community concepts? I know in Japan and Puerto Rico, I mentioned in our last interview that neighbors kind of hooked up everything. A company came in, sige, if you are all willing, we will put up the collectors on your roof, and it will be a grid and a power set up by itself. Does Alternative Energy or Alternergy have that?
Okay, so what I will go back to something I did with when I was energy secretary. So a village, a barangay, got together and installed several solar panels. Okay, plus a genset, a diesel genset. Okay, then they connected that setup to about 10 homes. Kasi, di ba, mas mura pag you share the cost of a diesel genset.
Yeah.
Hindi lang ikaw. They shared that, and the women made sure that they collect from every household a month a fixed price na mas mura than the cost of electricity from the electric co-op. So that was one. You could do that. It's a microgrid. The ERC is rushing to come up with guidelines to allow that. That's a simple solution. It's been done in Palawan. Why? Because there was no electricity there in Rio Tuba in Palawan. So it can be done. But what about in an electrified barangay? I mean, meron na kuryente, no? It's a matter of, it's not those options for those households na walang kuryente. But for those with, maybe they can afford 1 or 2 solar panels that they could install on their rooftop, or not on the rooftop, in their backyard facing the sun. Connect that, and may mga manabibiling napaka solar refrigerator. May even solar powered aircon kung gusto nila. And there are solar appliances that can be bought, ideally sana on installment.
Yeah.
Pwedeng may
what,
nagbebentang ganon.
Yeah, but what about the government requiring or mandating cooperatives, power generators to adopt renewables? Because maraming cooperative, they still run on diesel.
Very good.
And
so
it's insane.
So, Cito, very good point. And Secretary Lutilla, sa time in September, mandated that all co-ops should increase their renewable power procurement from 1% to 2.5%. Alam ko, it seems small, but that's the minimum, effective January 1, 2023. Now, that's a policy push. Now, the electric co-op should now act and start procuring solar renewable power. It doesn't have to be solar, Cito, no?
Yeah.
It could be hydro, it could be wind. Kung ano man ng may renewable in that neighborhood. I know one co-op near the near the Sierra Madre, because of this policy instruction from the DOE, will start procuring hydro from Arano River Hydro in Sierra Madre. in a neighborhood
Would
like
it because you were former DOE secretary, I know that sometimes as a department head or an agency, tali rin yung kamay mo unless Congress comes up with a law and then no one has a choice. Should Congress come up with a law that requires power generators, cooperatives, etc., to have more than 1 to 2%? I mean, what would be the ideal mix of renewable energies to the power generation?
Okay, Cito, good news. We don't need Congress to pass a law. The law has been passed.
Mhm.
The power to increase that or decrease it is given to the DOE. So the secretary has increased it for a long time, 1%. Baliwala yun. I mean, 1%. So he increased it to 2.5%. He may increase that next year to a higher number. But what I would suggest to that lady, if she is active, the co-op once a year calls a general assembly. Dapat kausapin niya yung mga kapitbahay niya that they should all write a letter to the general manager of the co-op saying, we want you, co-op, to quickly procure renewable power that is fixed price. Yun ang dapat. Kasi once a year may general assembly yan eh. Or they should call for a special assembly. Let's not wait for the general assembly, and call for a special assembly now on one topic lang. How fast can you procure cheap renewable power so all of us can benefit? Yun dapat pwede nilang gawin. Be an activist in a way. Those
Okay.
listening to us
I will call for a general assembly here on agenda to nominate you as the first party list representative of Labanang Kuryente. Nakakainis na, Sec Vince eh.
Okay, I know. So
You know?
I hear the frustration. This is not the first time I've heard from, and I'll tell you one thing that will not work. Subsidizing power to everybody doesn't work. Why? May mga mayayaman, they don't care kung gaano kalaki yung kanilang consumption. So we really need to work on the poor that meron tayong lifeline rate.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know
do that.
because I've seen that in the provinces, 500 pesos for a one light bulb household.
Yes, but so my lifeline rate for the poor, the marginalized, pero the middle class is suffering. The lady you talk to may not be the poorest, but she
No.
may be a middle class or a retiree who has no longer any income. So
I'm suffering every time the increase goes by 1,000. My wife gets mad at me.
I am glad that you have a wife who monitors the electricity cost monthly
Yeah.
bill. So-
Anyway, are we okay? I have to ask you a very sensitive question, okay? Because you were talking about policies increasing the renewable load, etc. What about pressure from industry players? Because as you know, Secretary Lutilla was with Aboitiz, the ARC chairman was with Aboitiz. How do we guarantee that they are not pressured or in any way or form bullied into countering what is pro people?
I know the two individuals personally, and I have to say, despite what looks like appearance, that they are independent-minded. Okay? Yes, hindi nila matanggal yung optics that they used to be close to Aboitiz, but I do know personally those two, Secretary Lutilla and Commissioner De Malanta, are independent-minded people. I
So
also do know, though,
you feel confident that as far as renewables go, your life won't be a punching bag or a struggle uphill.
I do know that both are very much pro-renewable. That I know, based on
Okay.
public announcements and even private discussions. They know that that is part of the solution. And
Okay.
the industry also understands that for them to have low cost of power for their plants, a lot of them are calling, asking, pwede ba kaming bumili ng renewable power directly? They are also, it's no longer a policy, it's a matter of its competitiveness, nothing to prove.
No
Renewable
choice.
doesn't need to be subsidized.
Okay,
anymore.
well, Sec Vince, I'm sorry, but I really literally run out of time. But thank you very much once again. And I'm sure this is not the first or the second or the third. There will be more conversations if you would join us, because we need to keep pounding for renewable energy, and your company is there taking the hits, breaking the ice, and we do hope that your projects really take off and that you become recognized by Congress and government as a valuable resource for information.
Thank you, Cito. Happy to talk to you anytime on these topics.
Okay, thank you very much, Sec Vince Perez. And now let's go to our closing blessing for the week from 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 16 to 18. Rejoice evermore, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. May God bless you. Let us all do our best to save on electricity, find ways and means. Sabi nga nila, yung solar nasa Shopee na at nasa Lazada pa. Okay, I'm Cito Beltran thanking you. Please keep it here on One News.